Hello, and welcome back to the Portrigger Academy SQL injection series here on CTF Security. I am Olajide, and in today's video, we will be exploring how to identify database types and versions, focusing specifically on MySQL and Microsoft platforms. Now, you might be wondering why this step is so important. Well, knowing the database type is essential before sending any kind of SQL injection payload. This ensures compatibility, minimizes errors, and ultimately making attacks or tests much more effective. As usual in this series, we'll start with manual exploitation and then move ahead to using Python scripting to automate our attack. So without further ado, let's get started. Alright, welcome back to the channel. As usual, we have the lab title, which is SQL injection attack, querying the database types and version on MySQL and Microsoft. We also have our lab description, which has to do with SQL injection vulnerability in the product category filter. You can use a union attack to retrieve the result from an injected query. To solve the lab, display the database version string. Now, what we are going to do is, before we jump into solving this lab, we need to first of all set our environment for documentation, which means I'm going to be creating a text file. We're going to be dumping all our findings. Now, what I'm going to do is to quickly cd into document. And inside the document, I have the Portrigger directory. So let's change directory to Portrigger. And we have SQL injection. All right, great. So let's quickly create a file. Let's call it lab4.txt. Okay. So what we're going to be doing first is we need to have the title of our lab. So let's quickly grab that. Sorry about that. Let's have that in here. Okay. So secondly, we need to know what kind of vulnerability we're dealing with. And let's call this vulnerability. So it's going to be an SQL injection vulnerability in the product category. So which is the union SQL injection. Okay. We also have the location, which is in the product category. So let's have this as location is the product category filter. We're going to figure that out very soon. So the next thing we need to have is our objective, which is the goal. So the goal of the lab is to be able to display the database version string. So I'm going to copy this and we're going to paste it in here. Now we can jump into solving the lab. The very first thing I'll do is to launch the lab by clicking on the Access the Lab button. This is going to take few seconds for our lab to come up. While that is loading, I already have my Burpsuite running in the background with my proxy configured. I can also turn on the intercept, but I'm just going to leave this off for now. Let's go back. Okay, great. Now we have our application. It happens that we are dealing with a shopping application here, a shopping web application. Now the shopping application has some text which include the title text and also the body text. Now if you scroll up, we also have some section which we can filter through the items we have on this page. We have the all, which displays every single item on the shopping application. We also have the clothing, shoes, and accessory category. We have the corporate gift category. We have the gift. We have the tech gift, and we have toys and games. Now we can filter through this category. If you click on gift, you'll be presented with items that has to do with just gift alone. So let's scroll up and see what we can do with this. Now the very first thing I'll do is to grab this URL, and let's head to our application. We can call this analysis, and from the analysis section here we have our URL. I'm going to paste this in here. Now we can take a look at what we have here on the URL. We have the host here, and we have our endpoint, which is the slash filter. We have the parameter to be category, and we have the value for the parameter to be gift. Now, what we can do is to test this category parameter, since we are told from the description that the product category filter contain an SQL injection vulnerability. So we can actually test this vulnerability out by injecting a special character, which is a single quote, into this category filter and see how the application is going to behave. So let's quickly do that. We'll head back to the web application, and I'm just going to remove the gift and insert the single quote, and we hit the enter key. You can see that we have the internal server error, meaning that the single quote has actually interfered with the backend query of the application, causing it to display the internal server error. So the very first thing is breaking the application. I'm just going to duplicate this. So we break the application with a single quote. Now that we know that this application is probably vulnerable to an SQL injection, what we can actually do is to perform a union-based SQL injection and see if we're able to output the version of the database for this web application. Now, to perform a union-based SQL injection, you need to put two things in place. First of all, we need to determine the columns for this database. And secondly, let me just go back. We need to know how many columns we have on the database. But from the look of things, we definitely have two columns, which is the title and the body for the items. But we might have hidden columns within the database, so we just have to verify. And secondly, we need to confirm that the data types for these columns support the information we want to retrieve from the application, which is a string. Now, let's quickly go to the Portrigger website. First, let me just close this one. Let's go ahead with union based SQL injection, and let's see how it works. I'll go with the first link. So just like I said earlier, we need to perform two functions. First of all, we need to determine the number of columns. We can do this in two different ways, either through the union select, or we can use the order by to confirm the number of columns that we have on the web application. And secondly, we need to confirm the database. We need to be sure that the database supports the string data type. Now let's see how that can be done. Let's go ahead with the first step, which is determining the columns. I'm just going to pick this payload, and let's go back to our note. Let's call this one, let's call it determining the numbers of columns. And the URL encode is, the space is going to change to plus. This is also going to change to plus. So let's just grab this. But before we send this payload, what I'll do is go to Burpsuite and see if we can capture this request so that we can make the modification from the Burpsuite. So let's forward this pending request and let's go to our application, and I'll just send this one more time. So this will be captured by Burpsuite. I need to send that again. Let's quickly do that again. Okay, so right click, I'm going to send to repeater, and I'm going to drop this. Now if we go to the repeater, I can send this, and you can see that we have a 200 okay, which actually retrieve the information that has to do with the gifts category within the web application. Right here you can see it. I think we have about one, two, three, four, about four items right here. Now we can just insert our payload in here. So let's go to our payload. I'm going to grab this and I'm going to paste this in here and send. And now we have a 500 internal server error. So what is actually happened here is, since we are dealing with a MySQL database, which we have the information here, there's a way the MySQL database treats the comment, which is we don't necessarily have to use the double hyphen as comment within the MySQL database. Rather, we replace it with the pounds symbol. So let's go to the application and just replace this comment with the pound symbol, and we have to make sure that we URL encode it. Right click, convert URL character. Okay, did I do that correctly? Okay, let's just send it to be sure. All right, great, so that was correct. So if you scroll down, what you notice is that the payload we just drop on the application is going to sort the application by one, which is by the first column, which is the title of the message. Now, if you want to have a better visibility to this, you can actually go to show response in browser. You can copy this and let's paste this on a new tab. So you can see that all the item we have here is sorted by the title, and the title is being sorted alphabetical order. So we have the conversation, we have the couple, then we have the high-end gift wrapping, then lastly we have the snow delivered to your doorstep. Now the next thing we want to do is to order by two to confirm if we have up to two columns within this database. So this is order by one. So I'm going to switch order by one to order by two. So let's change the one to two. We're going to run this. So you can see that we still have a 200 okay, and let's go back to that. And now you can see that the item are being sorted according to the body of the item, not the title this time around. So we have the are you one of those people as the first item. We have the buy stream train as the second item now. Then we have the do you love public, and lastly we offer a completely unique gift wrapping experience. Okay, so meaning that we have up to two columns within this application. The next thing we want to do is to search for the third column. So I'm going to click on the enter key, and you can see that we have internal server error, meaning that we have total number of two columns. So let's go to our note. So we try the order by one. Let's copy the payload. Let me send this to be sure it's working. Okay, yeah, great, it's working. So let's see, this was the payload that was used. I'm going to copy. Okay, so order by one worked. which indicate that we have one column, we have order by 2, which indicate that we have 2 columns, then we have order by 3, which throw up an error. Okay, so we have total number of 2 column, I beg your pardon, in the database. Okay, so number of 2 columns. So the next thing we want to do is to go to the second phase. Let's scroll down a bit. So now we can move to the second step. Which column returned from the original query are of a suitable data type to hold the result from the injected query? Now what we're going to do is, let's scroll up a bit, and we're going to see the payload for this. So we can actually use the union select null to confirm the data type for each of the columns. So since we are dealing with 2 columns, I'm going to use the middle one, and let me just drop this. Oh, so we have the determining valid data type. Let's just have it that way. So remember, this is going to be hash. So to test this, we can check if these 2 column, which is the null, which is a dummy variable we are using for this, support string data type. And the best way to do that is to substitute in the value with a string value. So I'm going to just have this as ctfsec, and we're going to have this as R007. Make sure you're using a single quote, and let's just take this in. I'm going to copy, and let's have this on the Burpsuite first. So let's substitute our payload. They just remove the gifts. I don't want the item to be populated, so I'm just going to paste our payload. Then we're going to highlight our payload, and then we're going to supply or convert to URL encode key characters, and I'm going to send. So you can see that we have the 200 OK, which means that our information successfully loaded. So you can see that we have the 200 OK, which means that our request was successful. Now if you scroll down, let's see, you can see the data we just try to output it to the database, which is the ctfsec and the R007. To confirm this, you can actually show response, and I can just put it in here and refresh, and you can see the data that we have here, ctfsec and the R007, which is the value that we have on our payload. Now that we have actually proven that this payload is working, the next thing we are going to do is to get the payload we are going to use to extract the version of this MySQL database. Now, what we are going to do is, let's go into another tab here, quickly do a simple Google search looking for SQL injection sheet. And this is going to provide us with some helpful command that we can use to extract the database version and types. So when we scroll down, you can see that we have a section for database version for different types of databases. We have the Oracle, Microsoft, Postgres, SQL, and the MySQL. And you can see that the command for the MySQL and the Microsoft is actually the same. So I'm just going to grab this payload, and let's head to our documentation. Let's have this one to be extracting database version. So the next thing we need to do here is to paste our payload in here and see how we can modify this payload to suit what we have on ground. Now this is what we have on ground before. So I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to paste this in here, and then I'm going to copy this, and let's replace this with the first column, and the second one we're just going to put this to be null. And then from the value here, we now have the single quote union select the at version comma the null, which is going to signify the second column that we have. Now what we can do is to highlight this and test this on the Burpsuite to see how it responds. So I'm going to copy this and head to the Burpsuite, and from the Burpsuite, the next thing we need to do is to replace the version that we have here, the previous payload that we have here, beg your pardon. And I'm going to paste this in here, paste, and then we have our payload in here. So the next thing we need to do is to convert this version here, and when we convert the version here, we will move to the URL, and then we convert for the all characters. Now the very first thing we need to do is let me Ctrl Z. When we grab our payload first, let me just go back. So once we have our payload here, let's grab the payload, and once we grab the payload, I'm going to replace that with what we have here, paste, and we're going to make sure that we URL encode this. Right click, convert, URL encode, let's go with the key characters, and then I'm going to forward this. Okay, we have the 200 OK, which means that our request was successful. And you can see that we have our version here, which is the 8.0.36 Ubuntu 0.20.04.1. And to just be sure, you can right click, show response in browser, copy, and we move to our browser here. You can see that we already have congratulations, you solved the lab. Now to confirm that, you can actually just let's open a new tab, and you can paste this in here, and you see that we have our version, congratulations, you solved the lab. That is how you solve this particular lab. The next phase is we're going to be seeing how we can script this particular attack using Python scripting. But before we do that, we actually need to confirm what we have here. So let me just make some arrangements for our payload. Let's go grab the payload we have here. I'm going to copy, and I'm going to have it here, which is the final payload. So let's have this here, and I'm going to save. So we're going to move ahead to the last phase of this video, which involves scripting our attack. And the very first thing we're going to do is to head to the terminal, and from here we can create our Python script. We're going to call it lab4.py. Then we can import all the relevant libraries. The first library I'm going to import is the request library, which we're going to be using to make web requests. Secondly, from BS4, I want to import beautiful soup, which we're going to be using to scrape some data from the web application. And thirdly, I want to import the regular expression to find this data we want to scrape. And lastly, I want to import the sys library, which we're going to be using to handle some exception within the code. Now, talking about exception, we need to have our try exception block. Except. So let's handle our exception first. So we can have accept request, in this situation whereby we have issues within our request. So request.exception dot request exception as E. I can make this bigger. So what's going to happen in this case, we're going to print a customized message saying an error has occurred. Please check your connection. Let's just have it that way. All right, great. The second exception is going to be that of the keyboard interrupt. And what's going to happen in this case is we're going to print a customized message on a new line called program interrupted by user. All right. So in a situation we have this message, we should be able to exit. Okay. So let's have our try block, which is where our actual code is going to be. The very first thing we want to do is to make our variable declarations, and let's just go into the URL I have before. So I'm just going to grab this URL because it will enable us to have a clearer view of how we are going to customize our URL. So let's go back and let's just have it as a comment in here. Okay, so URL equals to input. I'm going to use the input function to get data from the user, and we're going to have a customized message saying enter URL. Okay. Secondly, I need the parameter and the same message. This time around, we want to enter parameter. And lastly, we need the payload. I'm going to explain this shortly. Okay. So for example, this is going to be our URL from the URL here up until the endpoint filter. Then we're going to have our category as our parameter, and we're going to have the gift as our payload, which is actually where our payload is going to be supplied to. So the next thing we want to do is to make sure that we harmonize these together. But before we do that, we can actually have our header. Let me just reload this so that we don't lose connection. Oh, sorry about that. I haven't started the lab. So this is just going to take few seconds. Since this is dynamic, I can just change this to lab ID. Okay. All right, great. So we have the same web page we just exploited earlier. So let's go back to our script. Now, if you go back to the script, we want to be able to harmonize the URL, the parameter, and the payload together. And when you go back to the web page, let's say you select the gift, and you can see that the URL that we have here has the same structure. Now, the very first thing I want to do is to inspect. And when you go to the network, let's just reload this one more time. Let's reload this. So I'm looking for this particular web page 0A1800. So that should be located somewhere here. Okay, yeah, that should be somewhere here. Let me just close that. So which is the filter category equals to gift, which is exactly what we have here. So we have the request method to be get, status code to be 200. Okay. What I'm interested in is the request header. So I'm just going to be picking one, the user agent, and the actual value for the user agent. And I'm going to be passing this as a dictionary. So if we go back to the script, we can have our header. So let's call this headers equals to, open our dictionary. I'm going to paste that in here. And we need to make sure that this is a string. So now we need to go back and get the actual value. So also in a string, and we have our value. So we can proceed now in concatenating our string. So we're going to call a new variable full URL, and it's going to be equals to, firstly it's going to be the lab id .websecurityacademy.net/filter. So we're going to call it the URL. Then after the URL, we're going to have a question mark, which is going to signify the beginning of the category parameter. So we're going to have the category. Then we need to have the equals to, which is going to signify the value for the parameter. So we can now have it as the payload, which is sitting down here. Okay, so we can test this if this is actually working by printing full underscore URL. So I'm going to save and let's execute this. So let's use Python 3 lab 4.py. So it's requesting for a URL. I'll just quickly go grab my URL, which is everything from here up until the filter endpoint. So let's go back and just put it in here. Remember, the parameter is going to be category. And for now, our payload is going to be gift. Okay, so we have issues. Category is not defined, so probably this is a spelling issue. So I'm just going to go back to the code and check what we have. Oh, sorry about that. This is not category, it's supposed to be parameter. I'm going to save again and let's head back. Before I clear the screen, I'll just copy this. Clear. Let's run the code again. So we're going to paste this in. We're going to have the parameter as category, and our payload is going to be gift. All right, cool. So we've successfully concatenated the URL along with the parameter and the payload value, which is the gift in this case. So let's head back to our code now that everything is working fine so far. The next thing we want to do is let's have a comment to describe our action. We want to make a web request using the request library. And to do that, we're going to create a new variable called response, and it's equals to request dot get, and we're going to pass the parameters or the argument which we have initially, which is the full URL underscore URL, comma. We're going to pass our headers equals to headers. Next, we can actually print this. Let's print. I'm going to comment this out for now. Let's print the response dot text. I'm going to save, and let's have it. So we're going to have category, and we're going to have this as gift. All right, great. So you can see that we successfully dump all the data from the database that has the category gift, which means that our code is working just fine. So let's go back to our script. The aim of this script is not to print this, so I'm just going to comment it out as usual. And the next thing we want to do is we want to have a comment, and we're going to use beautiful soup library to pass the HTML content, which is the response we just have. And to do that, we're going to first of all create a soup equals to beautiful soup. And just like the request library, we're going to pass some parameters into it, and it's going to be the response dot text. And sorry about that, comma. We're also going to pass the HTML parser, which we are going to use to pass the response.text, and then we can print soup. Okay, let's see how it looks like. Let's go back. I can actually make this bigger for now. Okay, so let's run our script, and let's have our parameter, let's have our category to be the parameter, and let's have our payload to be gift. Okay, so we have all the same content, so you can see the content. Okay, so let's go back. We can now feed our payload into this parameter, and the very simple way we can do that is during execution. Now, since we have this payload from our manual exploitation, I can just use this as a payload. So Let's just execute that one more time. So let's have our script, and we're going to paste the same payload, and then we're going to have a parameter to be category, and our payload is going to be this one. Okay, so you can see that we've successfully dumped this particular version here, and when we go back, you can see that we've successfully solved the lab. But now we don't need this excessive, sorry about that, we don't need this excessive informations here. We have a lot of informations, a lot of different HTML tags. What we just need to extract is just the 8.0.36 Ubuntu version right here. What we just need to extract is just this version sitting right here inside the table header. Now, to do this, we're going to be needing to perform some beautiful soup operation. So if we go back to the script, let's go back to our script. Before the exception, I can just comment this out for now. And let's see how we can find the tag. Now, the tag we're going to be finding is, let's go back to check that out. So what tag is the version located in? Let's see. Okay, we have one tag called T-body right here. And inside the T-body, we have the table row. Inside the table row, we have the table header. To get this out of this HTML tag, we need to extract the T-body. So if we go back to the script, we can call this one find the T-body tag. This is going to be a comment, by the way. Okay, so we can easily use the T-body, just a new variable underscore tag equals to soup.find T-body, which is what we're looking for. In case if you're confused, you go back to the terminal, you can see the T-body we want to extract, which is everything from here up until this part. So let's go back, and now we can print T-body underscore tag. Okay, let's go back, and we can actually execute this again. Can we grab that URL again? Let me just refresh this to make sure I don't lose connection. Okay, we can actually have it here. Copy and put it right here. Then parameter is going to be a category, and our payload is going to be our payload here. Okay, so you can see that we've successfully extracted just the T-body tag, but we are not done yet. We still need to extract this table heading so that we just have only the content within this table header, which is the 8.0.36 Ubuntu. So to actually do that, we need to introduce a conditional statement in order to validate this. So when we go back to our script, let's go back to the script. Okay, so we can have a comment, and let's call this extract and print the text inside the T-body tag if found. So in a situation whereby we're not able to find it, it should be a customized message for that. So what we're going to do is issue the command if tbody underscore tag is equals to, sorry about that. So if tbody underscore tag, meaning if we're able to find the tbody underscore tag, which is actually what we've printed right here. So what is actually going to happen? We're going to have tbody underscore text equals to, this is just a new variable, the existing tbody underscore tag dot get underscore text. So we need just the text form and not the HTML form. So we can have a separator equals to /n. Then we can strip equals to true. In a situation where we are having excess white spaces, and then what we can have next is to print tbody underscore text. Okay, so I can just save this, and let's move to, okay, I think I lost connection there, so I'm going to close this and relaunch the lab. I'm also going to fire the terminal. So let's see, can we make this bigger a little bit? Let's quickly go to the directory. We have our script, which is inside the document. See the port trigger, see the SQL injection. Okay, so we should be having our script here, which is this, okay, sorry, which is this one. So we can have Python, let's just make this bigger, just like before. Python 3 lab4.py. So let's quickly grab our new URL. First of all, I need to select something which is gift. You can pick any item just like we did earlier. So I'm going to select our full URL, starting from filter. So I'm going to copy, and let's just paste this in here. So the parameter is going to be category, and our payload will be this same payload we have here. Okay. We got an error. Let's quickly check our script. Let's go back. So we have separator. Okay, I think that was where the issue was. Separator equals to this. I'm just going to save, and let's clear this, and we're going to run that again. I need to grab that URL one more time. Just do away with the category. Parameter is going to be category, and then payload is going to be the same payload we're using. All right, great. So we have our extracted information here. Now, the reason why we're having both the HTML and the extracted data is because I didn't comment out the first print statement. So if you go back to the code, we should be having a print statement we left out, which is this one. Okay, great. If I save and we run the program again with the same parameter, so let's quickly copy link, category, and the payload. So you can see that we just have the version alone. So congratulations, you've solved the lab. You can also do this in another way using the regular expression. And the way to do that is we're going to comment out the first output we have here. And then let's go to the next line. Let's create a comment. And we're going to call it extracting version using regular expression. Okay, so the very first thing we need to do is to create a new variable called pattern, which is going to house our regular expression, and we're going to leave it blank for now. Secondly, we need to create another variable called matches, which we're going to use to find the matching pattern. So it's going to be a regular expression dot find all, and then we're going to pass the parameter into this module. So it's going to be pattern comma. The second one is going to be tbody underscore text, which is the variable that houses the HTML document we have in the first place, which is going to be this one. Okay, so we can possibly, let's see. Okay, so now the next thing we need to do is to formulate our pattern. And one way to do that is, let's go back to our lab. Make sure I spawn this up once again, and this is going to take few seconds. So while it is coming up, I'll just head to our manual exploitation, and I'm going to just pick up our exploit. So for now, we can make this bigger. So let's go to gift parameter here, and I'm going to just paste our payload in. All right, you can see that we've successfully solved the lab. So this is what we are extracting from the web page. So I'm going to grab this and let's head to our program. So let's have that as a dummy data. So I can just paste that in here. So the next thing we're going to do is to grab this text or this version we want to extract from the web application. I'm going to copy this and we're going to head to a new page, and we're going to take a look at a particular online application which is used for forming or detecting regular expression. And the one we're going to be using is regex 101. So I'm just going to fire this up, and it's going to take few seconds to load up. Okay, so we're going to have our test string we want to extract in here. I'm going to paste it right here, and we're going to form our regular expression. The first thing is we want to be able to match the digits that we have here. So we're having 8. So in order to match this, I need this slash d. This is going to match all the digits. But now we don't just want to match the 8 alone. We want to match 8.0. So to match the dot, we need to append the plus symbol and then our dot, and this is going to match every single dot. And since we are doing this, we want to segment this. We don't just want to extract all the digits plus the dot symbol. So what we need to do is to put this in a group. So I'm just going to group them together and then match it um, according to how many digits and dot we have. So we have the 8.0.36. So that is like 1, 2, 3. So this is going to be 3. So you can see that we've successfully matched this part here. So the next thing we want to match is we want to match the 0 that we have here, just like we did earlier. We're going to use the /d, and then we're going to have our plus, which is going to match the 0. The next thing we want to match the Ubuntu, which is actually a lowercase. To match that, what we need is let's create a regular expression for that, which is this lowercase a to z. We're going to close this, and then we're going to specify how many character, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Ubuntu is 6 characters, so I'm just going to put 6 in there. Sorry about that. 6 character. So you can see that we successfully matched the Ubuntu as well. So the next thing we want to match is the 0.20.04. So to do that, we'll have something similar to this. So that is going to be parenthesis, and then we're going to have the d plus, then the dot. Then I'm going to close the parenthesis. I think I've messed with something. Why is it not selecting? Okay. So we have the closing tag. So what we're going to have is /d. Okay, great. So /d, which is for the digits. We want to match the 0.20 now. So it's going to be plus this. And let's see what we have. You can see that we successfully matched the 0 dot. So to count how many group we're going to be having, so this is going to be 1, 2, 3. So we'll be left with just the 1. So let's go ahead and put 3 in here. And to match the last digit, we're going to just have that's going to be /d, and that's going to match the last digit. So this is going to be our regular expression. I'm going to copy this and head to our script. We're going to put that in here. All right, so we have our regular expression. I can just do away with this one. Okay, so we have our regular expression. I'm going to just save this, and then let's quickly try to print matches and see what we get. Print matches, and let's go back to our terminal and let's run Python 3 our lab 4.py. Okay, so we need our URL. So I'm going to grab this and head to the terminal, and we're going to remove all this. That was a mistake. So let's grab this from here to this point. Copy and paste. What's happening? Copy. Oh, that was an error. So let's clear the screen, and let's grab this again. Okay, so our parameter is category, and then our payload, not forgetting our payload. Copy. We're going to fix that in here. We are not getting any response. Okay, let's see. Let's go back to our script. Print matches. This is strange. What is really the problem? Okay, can we just print the text also? This is strange. So we're not getting any response. Let's confirm that this page. Okay, so I think that was the issue. The connection just keep going. So let's do that again. So I'm going to copy this, copy, and let's head back and run our script. I'm going to paste this category and then our payload. That was wrong. That was wrong. All right, great. So we have this to be the output, the first output, and we have an empty list for the second output. So let's go back to our script. So do we print anything? So this was the one that gave us the output, and the list happens to be empty in this case. So the next thing we want to do is let's just go ahead, and then we can now have if matches, if matches, or match in matches, print match. Okay, so we can also have the else condition. Else can print otherwise, which is my SQL version not found, which means our regular expression is faulty also. So let's go ahead for the last part. Else we can print lab not solved. Okay, so I'm going to save this and let's run our script again. For match in matches, I guess we have an error there. For match in matches, oh, so let's grab the URL, copy link. The parameter is category and the payload is right here. MySQL not fine, meaning something is wrong with our regular expression. So let's quickly confirm that. So what if I use something a bit simple? So let's go with the /d first. So we have the dot, which is going to match every single digit, including the dot. And then we have the /d for the second dot, /d dot. And then we can use dot to match this special character here. And then we can have another /d to match the 0. Then we can match the Ubuntu. This time around, we're just going to specify Ubuntu, since that is what we're looking for. And then we can have an asterisk to match any other thing after the Ubuntu. So let's quickly use this in our payload. Let's see. Let's change this. Let's save. So we're going to run this script again. Copy. Parameter is category. Payload is our union SQL injection payload. So you can see that we've successfully extracted the value, which is the string. So if we go back to our script, we can do away with the first matches we printed, which is actually not needed, just to test our results. So let's save this. I can also confirm this for the last time. I can comment out this also, and then let's clear the screen, and we're going to run our script. Let's go fetch the URL, copy. Our parameter is going to be category, and our payload is located on our manual exploitation page. So we're going to copy, and then I'm going to paste this here. So as you can see, we've successfully extracted the version of this MySQL database. So guys, that will be all in this video. If you've learned one or two things from this video, make sure you like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you in the next video.